Alright, so keeping with the Ohio Liquor Store picks, this is the Ezra Brooks Distillers Collection. So this is, 107 proof.
Is it just that we've drank a lot tonight, or is there
There's
not a whole lot of nose
nothing
on
on
this?
this nose.
I'm getting nothing.
There's not a whole lot on this nose.
I get
It's
a little bit of fruit,
a little bit of cream.
a little bit of cream,
It's kind
maybe
of
a tiny bit of vanilla, but again, vanilla bean.
vanilla bean, vanilla cream, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of chalky, like if you were to like a Smartie chalky.
Yes. Yeah, not chalky necessarily in the sense that it's a bad thing, just that it's more like a dry. Yeah, that's kind of where the fruitiness is coming in. It's like a dry fruitiness.
Yeah, like if you can think of Smarties as being dry and fruity, this is dry and fruity.
Yes.
But it's faint.
You think
that
that
Chalk
tiny-
Zone?
What's that?
Chalk
Remember the
Zone?
show
Oh, it's a
Chalk
great
Zone?
show.
This is
That
the
was a
taste
classic.
of Chalk Zone. There you go. Or the smell of Chalk Zone.
Well, we haven't gotten that far yet.
This is the smell of Chalk Zone.
This is the smell of Chalk Zone.
I get maybe a tiny bit of brown sugar. A tiny, like I'm getting
I would
subtle.
say honey. I would say honey before I said brown sugar.
I can see. I'm getting like the slight bourbon notes. Like someone took bourbon notes and turned the gain the whole way down. Kinda.
Yeah, it's really faint. Like nothing is standing out. It's just a very faint
Right.
nose.
Nothing unpleasant, but again, nothing. Nothing
Now I'm just
jumps
hoping
out.
that all of it's in the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
sure.
Let's see.
Let's see. It is. There's a lot in that flavor.
There's a lot to the body, but actually, I don't think there's a lot to the flavor.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, there's a ton of body on this whiskey, but there's not a lot of flavor on the whiskey.
I'm getting, and I know I go back to this all the time. I get dill, or again maybe more along the lines of the vinegar like we got before.
Actually, I don't agree with vinegar, but I do agree with like dill herb, like the herb dill.
Okay.
I can agree with that. It's got cinnamon spice, like literally like dry
This is a lot.
cinnamon.
This is not a sweet bourbon at all.
Not
This is
at
a
all.
lot of the bourbon kind of spice flavor. It almost. I don't know if Ezra Brooks is a super high rye. It tastes like it is.
This is dry as fuck. Like there's no like it's got like sweet notes, but it's literally astringent and not in a bitter way.
I get a little bit
it's
of
just
oak.
drying.
I get oak. I get a little bit of leather.
I get oak. Yeah, I get a little bit of bitter leather. I get a lot of like cinnamon spice, baking spice.
It tastes almost like you took. It's almost more like a high bourbon rye than a high rye bourbon. There's a lot of rye notes. You get hints of like bourbon again because you get cinnamon. You get. I don't know.
All I can say
It's
is
really interesting.
it is interesting because there's more body than there is flavor. Like
Which
it's a
is-
very thick bourbon, but the flavor does not.
How many C's are we talking? Like 5, 6,
I'd say 4.
4? Okay, 4 C's. Okay.
Like the
So
most.
we're talking like middle of the road.
I would say like
from
the
thick
max.
to thick. Okay.
The max number of C's I have had on a bourbon is 5. This is a 4.
I can
But
see it.
the flavor doesn't back up the thick.
It doesn't. I do like the dill notes to it. Again, as you know, every whiskey I've tried that had dill notes, rye and otherwise, I've really liked.
Right.
It's not my favorite. Again, this is something I have no complaints about, though. Aside from the fact that I wish there was more flavor backing up the body on it.
This is one that if I tasted it, I would not buy it.
I think I can agree.
The only reason being is that there is not enough flavor to back up. Like, the body is perfect.
Right. There's, like, again, the only issue is that
The flavor
it's super
is
full
missing.
bodied, but it's not full of flavor. I like it, though. And this is something that I will not hesitate to finish this bottle. It is not bad by any means.
I'd like to try this again when it's not at the end of a tasting line.
I can agree to that.
Because I wonder if we're just getting the dregs of flavor because it's at the end of a tasting line.
It's possible.
So like I would like to taste this again.
Yeah, I think this is when we can give the benefit of the doubt that there's probably more to it than we're actually getting just based on circumstance.
And I would like to, especially after having the Dickel, where like we got a ton of different flavors out of it, and that was also a Distiller Select. So I want to give this the benefit of the doubt and come back and try it
Especially
again
since
later.
it's a Distiller's Select and it's a store pick from the same place.
Right.
So like, one would expect that if the same place is making the same store pick, that there's a similar palate in mind.
Yeah, we very well could be suffering from palate fatigue, but at the same time, maybe it is just a weak flavored bourbon.
Right.
Which,
However, I was gonna say how full bodied it is alone makes it enjoyable to me, where I wouldn't repurchase it, but I would not hesitate to down this whole bottle.
that's what I mean. Like, I would not regret buying this bottle to taste it,
But I would regret repurchasing it.
Yes. Like,
Because there's, at $50, there's other, I would buy a New Riff single barrel because I know I will not be disappointed.
oh, there's so many things at $50 I would rather buy instead of this.
But, and that's not saying this is bad, there's a lot of $50 choices.
There really are.
I mean, hell, how many things have we tried here that are in that $50 range? The bullet cask, when we try that, that's a $50.
I'm actually starting to get excited about trying that, to be totally honest.
The Dickel is in the $50 range. I mean, the Johnny Drum's a little under, but we can consider it around the same area. For the Belle Meade, same deal. It's 40, but we can consider it in that same ballpark. Old Elk is 50.
Actually, I think I might take the Old Elk over this. If I'm going to be honest.
I agree.
I think I would take Old Elk over this.
I might take this because as much as I like the sweetness, there's something about the fact that it's full-bodied and has the sort of dill notes.
Well, yeah, without a doubt, this has the body over Old Elk. I think Old Elk has a better flavor.
It's one where I don't agree, but I 100% see it.
Yes, and I agree.
That's where it comes up to taste.
I agree with that.
Where it's a toss-up depending on what you like more. If you like sweeter, you're probably gonna like the Old Elk more. I like sweeter, but for some reason I like the there's something about the dill notes that get to me.
Hey, you fucking weirdo.
You're right.
This
That's why of any rye I've ever tried, Dickel's one of my favorite, even though it's a $25 bottle at best.
This is also the perfect example of why I want to try Ezra Brooks 7 before I buy a bottle of it. Because after tasting this, it makes me wonder if Ezra Brooks 7 would be the most disappointing barrel proof I have ever had.
Or something delicious.
It
could be any of them.
And I don't know. But it makes this makes me hesitant to want to buy a bottle of it. Blindly.
I can agree. I would trade it for something if I was winning value-wise on the trade.
But that being said, I do need to try this again on a clean palate because we've had.
We have to try this first one of these times just to because all the other ones, like you can tell, just even being in the tasting lineup, it hasn't really affected it too much. Where we've enjoyed it about where we expect. This one, I feel like maybe it should have been earlier in the tasting so that it didn't get overpowered. There's probably stuff getting overpowered.
I honestly think that might be the case, and I would love
because
to
when
try
I've tried it, like this isn't necessarily how I remember trying it. I remember I like it as much as I did then, but I remember it tasting different. Granted, it's had a lot of time to air out.
I think we try this again in a month after we've had a couple of different tasting lines, and I think.
Or even if we were to try it in 2 weeks, trying it right at the beginning before we try anything else, just to give it that benefit of the doubt.
I agree with that. And actually, I would like to compare this side to side with Penelope Cask.
Agreed. I would also like to at some point try this with regular Ezra Brooks 90 because you can get that for $14, and the 99, just to see the progression. And if I could get a sample of the barrel proof, the Ezra 7, I would love to have that whole fucking lineup. Because keeping in mind that the Ezra Distillers collection is never a regular thing; it's always a store pick.
Because I have to say, this is my first experience with Ezra, and I'm not impressed.
Right. I was gonna say Ezra. None of their products blow me out of the water. In my opinion, they all are like solid. And this is one where again, it has the aspects where I could see it being solid, but I think palate has something to do with it right now. I think we've tried too many whiskeys before trying this, and that stuff's getting overpowered that wouldn't be.
And that's why I think a lot of the time we should stick to like 8 whiskeys max. But we'll come back to this one.
Yes.
And I think it'll be better next time.
It's just interesting that it didn't affect the... I mean, for all we know, it did affect the Dickel, and we like it even more than we did. But...
I'm more than happy to come back and try it again. Like, this is... I personally do not think that this represents Ezra Brooks to me in general.
Because I've tried multiple products, and even this, I remember it being better than this. So I would think it's palate related. So that is something to keep in mind with our review of this. And that I would take anything we've said with a grain of salt and to try it for yourself.
Yeah,
Especially if you can find a store pick from somewhere you trust, like Ohio Liquor for Ohio, or Fine Wine and Spirits for PA. I would trust the store picks on these just because I trust the palates of the people who are picking them.
Especially for the price. I mean, the price is solid.
Under $50, it's not... Again, if this tasted exactly like we're tasting it now, I don't regret having this.
Right.
I didn't buy it, granted. I got it for free. But I would not regret buying this at that price either. I just probably wouldn't
buy it
place
again.
it. Yeah. Or I would wait for a store pick from somewhere I trust more.
I personally just want to try it again. Like...
Clean. Yep.
Yeah, at the very most, have it be the 3rd whiskey of the night. This has been probably the 9th whiskey we've had so far. I think that it's a little
This
tainted.
is 10th.
So, I want to try...
This is the 10th whiskey out of 11 tonight.
So, I do not want to... I actually am not going to rate this because I don't think...
Because it's not fair to. We can
It's
give our
not fair,
critique,
yes.
we can give our description of it, but I'm not going to give this a rate for that reason.
Yeah,
Now, the Bullet, I will, because it's a cast strength. Compared to everything else we tried, Bullet is notoriously spicy.
I'm going to wait to see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's up to you.
I'm going to wait to see if I think that it is distinct enough after what we have tasted. If I don't think it's distinct enough, I'm going to want to try it again. But I will rate
That's
it
the downside.
accordingly.
We keep getting too much nice stuff, and we want to try it all, and then we...
Well, we at least know that everything we have tried so far falls in line, especially up to the Dickel. This Ezra Brooks, I feel like I need to give it the benefit of the doubt the same way I said we need to have the Redbreast first.
Yes.
I feel like I need to have the Ezra
I feel
Brooks
like we should,
earlier on.
if we knew what this was going to be like, we would have had this earlier on.
Right. And like knowing the Redbreast, it deserved to be the first, and everybody appreciated it for what it was, being the first whiskey we had tonight.
But, yeah. I mean, we'll come back to this one. There'll be
We
a
will
second
come back to
video on
this.
this.
There will be a second one, yes.